Welcome in, everyone. All right, folks, buckle up. Today we're heading back to 1980s France, where things got a whole lot weirder than anyone would have a reason to expect. Picture this. A man, minding his own business, ends up face to face with some strange beings. And just when you think it couldn't get more bizarre, they start talking about demons and human abductions. Then, as if straight out of a fever dream, they fly off on ghostly snowmobiles, leaving nothing but questions in their wake. Yeah, this one's a wild ride. On December 12th, 1987, at approximately 10:50 in the morning, an encounter took place in Malvézy, about 3 kilometers north of Narbonne, a site known for its uranium processing plant. The location was a plateau on the side of a hill, elevated 15 to 20 meters above the road. The atmosphere on the day in question was marked by rain and mist, with a low, overcast sky setting the scene. The witness, whom we will refer to as Georges Lenoir to preserve his privacy while reflecting his initials, is a 40-year-old former restaurateur and music composer with a 16-year-old daughter. Georges came across as entirely credible, balanced, sensible, thoughtful, and unfazed by the experience. He recounted the events with notable clarity and a sincerity that felt unmistakable. The following account describes an unexpected encounter. What began as an ordinary outing took an unusual turn when, while searching for wood near Malvézy, the witness came face to face with strange figures and unusual vehicles. To investigators, Georges gave the following account of events. In order to have a barbecue, I decided to go collect wood near Malvézy, as I often do. Upon reaching the demolished building, I stopped my car and walked toward the rubble, where I hoped to find pieces of planks and beams. After advancing about 6 or 7 meters, I found myself facing 6 people near 4 vehicles resembling snowmobiles. Under their awkward stares, I momentarily abandoned my plan to gather wood and approach this strange group of individuals, rather short, with Asian features, who seemed to be taking shelter under a hedge of shrubs. According to Georges, the vehicles were about 1.5 meters long and 0.4 meters high, and could seat 1, 2, or even 3 figures straddling them. These vehicles had no visible instruments or control mechanisms. No engine, no wheels, no handlebars. Their color was an off-white shade. When I get closer, about 2 meters away, I don't notice anything unusual apart from the peculiar vehicles. So, to start a conversation, I say, "Hello, nasty weather today." I then hear some nasal, incomprehensible sounds. I persist. "Are you from around here?" The second figure from the left, who looks somewhat effeminate, speaks 2 words I don't understand. Thinking I'm dealing with pranksters, I continue, "Oh, so you're extraterrestrials," while looking around for hidden cameras, imagining I'm on the set of a film. The second figure then approaches me, squats down, and draws 2 symbols on the wet ground, one resembling the Greek lowercase letter gamma, the other a C. Simultaneously, in a nasal voice, they say, "Sky, demon." I still don't take the situation seriously, and playing along with what I believe is a prank, I say, "Is it better on your planet?" The second figure, who is the only one to have spoken and appears to be female, replies with 2 words, "Less work." The outlandish nature of this encounter doesn't faze me, and I continue my questions. How do these vehicles work? Magnetic. The rain bothers us, no relay with base. You're like us, there's air on your planet, I continue. Pointing to the first figure, the woman says, 9th century. Then pointing to the 5th, 13th century. At that moment, figure number 1 steps forward, extends their hand and says, "Arctic Pole." I had no intention of shaking their hand. Did they even want me to? But driven by curiosity, I brushed my hand against theirs and noted that their skin, if it could be called that, felt particularly cold. Throughout this time, I kept a close watch on the group and noticed that they exchanged looks which seemed to convey not only concern, but disagreement about continuing the encounter, especially our conversation. As the woman said, "You do not interest us, but a few humans are leaving with us," a seventh figure appeared on my right. He seemed annoyed by the situation, even somewhat angry. He addressed the group in a nasal, incomprehensible voice, appearing to be in a near-trance state. Immediately, they mounted the vehicles resting on the ground. Without a sound, without even causing the grass to stir, and without any visible action by the pilots, the vehicles lifted off gently. They rotated in place and then headed off to my right, moving toward the top of the hill. Their speed was slow, and they gained altitude very gradually, only reaching 3 to 5 meters above the ground by the end of the observation. Suddenly, I perceived a high-pitched noise, hard to describe, as if it were coming from inside my head. This was followed by a brief loss of consciousness, although, curiously, I remained standing. I must have been unconscious for only a few seconds. I do not think I could have fallen, because when I regained my senses, I noticed my clothes were not muddy. I was shaken by the experience, and I returned home without having collected any wood. I arrived at my house at 11:15 a.m. In the early afternoon, I returned to the site with my daughter. Apart from 4 or 5 round marks, 10 centimeters in diameter, in the grass, I noticed nothing tangible that could support my observation. The encounter lasted only a few minutes. Investigators felt there was no reason to believe that the witness was specifically drawn to the site, as he had simply gone there to collect wood. Afterwards, aside from some recent lower back pain, the witness didn't seem to have any physical or psychological effects that could be directly linked to the encounter. The witness described the figures as having Asian features. 4 of them were about 1.5 meters tall, while the other 3 stood at around 1 meter, which made him think they might have been children. Their skin was earth-colored, and aside from a few horizontal wrinkles at the lower corners of their noses, there weren't any features that really stood out from human traits. The clothing, dark in color and identical for all, consisted of a jumpsuit that extended into a form-fitting hood, with the exception of 2 individuals. The witness believes he saw hair. 2 of them appeared to be female, although this assumption was based solely on their delicate facial features. Around the hair or hood area, those who seemed to be the children displayed a silvery white coloration. The witness noted that, if this was indeed hair, it must have been cut very close to the scalp, although he could not provide further details. He admitted his description was a bit vague and said, "If I had the chance to do it over again, then..." Once again, we're dealing with an event that leaves us with more questions than answers. These extraterrestrials weren't very talkative, treated humans with a certain disdain, and made us wonder why they were in such an unimpressive spot, not even a prime location for observing the uranium refinery nearby. Does it really make sense to believe that beings with unimaginable knowledge ended up near Narbonne, using vehicles that couldn't handle moisture, and had a bizarrely trivial conversation with an Earthling before taking off under the orders of an irritable leader? This case is especially intriguing because of the basic conversation the witness managed to have with the beings. Though limited in scope, this exchange adds a new dimension to our understanding of symbolic interaction in such encounters. A symbolism expert might interpret this dialogue as more than just simple communication, potentially pointing to universal symbols or shared archetypes. The gestures, tone, and nonverbal cues could hold clues that warrant closer examination. We will examine a few of these cues and leave the rest to you. What else could be gleaned from this case? Do we have to admit that our intelligence and awareness just aren't sharp enough to catch the subtleties of a message meant for us? One that these so-called extraterrestrials don't even bother to make understandable? This story is full of strange details that push the line between what seems possible and what feels absurd. That in itself adds to the credibility of the experience, since it matches so many others. If the witness had made up a hoax, he would have likely come up with a more believable story. If we could have backed up this sighting with other testimonies or physical evidence on the ground, our logical minds would be more at ease. Even so, the investigators were convinced of the witness's sincerity. Arctic pole, sky demon, magnetism, base. These few words are sure to capture all of our imagination. Perhaps they even lead us to draw connections to other unexplained events and come up with theories as wild as they are varied. Why did the beings evoke demon among these other terms? The word demon originates from the Latin demon, tracing back to the daimonic beings of Greek mythology. These figures were seen as powerful intermediaries, bridging the human and divine worlds, and often offering guidance or protection. Over time, these beings evolved in the collective imagination, shifting from benign or neutral spirits to symbols of disorder. They became minor gods, then shadows of themselves, eventually taking on darker connotations as malevolent forces. The early Christians also added to the cultural splintering of the word demon. Modern interpretations of demons are associated with supernatural spirits that act as evil tormentors and seducers, causing misfortune to humans. Scholars suggest that the symbolism of demonic imagery is rooted in the fears and beliefs of ancient humans, who had genuine reasons to be aware of the chaotic forces of nature and the complex workings of the human mind. If these beings spoke of a demon, what archetype or message did they intend to convey? Was it the archaic, benign emissary of old myths, guiding and guarding humanity? Or was it the devilish sprite of mischief, harbinger of chaos and destruction? This case becomes even more captivating when considering the myths tied to Arktos, the poles, their shifts, and the Earth's tilted angle, all converging with the legends of Hyperborea, a mythical land beyond the north wind, known as a realm of perpetual sunlight and strangeness. The Earth's tilt causes extreme conditions at the poles, such as long periods of light and darkness. This helps explain why Hyperborea represents more than just a physical place. It symbolizes the polar regions as mysterious and transformative, where the normal rules of nature shift. The idea that these areas could act as thresholds to the unknown might shed light on why the strange being in Narbonne referenced this place. Demon and Arctic poles, sky and base. In the end, this encounter gave us a glimpse behind the veil, only to leave us staring at the mystery, challenging us to solve it on our own. Tell us how you see things. How do you assess this testimony? The source material for this episode comes primarily from Lumière dans la nuit, or Lights in the Night, issues 291 and 292 from 1988. Feel free to add to our comment section and join the conversation. If you like this content, you can support our continued efforts by dropping us a like, or better yet, subscribe to our channel. This week, we would like to give a special thanks to RRR Group, Buddy N, and Attila Szabo for buying us coffee on buymeacoffee.com. We also want to thank everyone supporting us on Patreon. Thank you.